Buckle up, because what unfolded next turned whispers into war. In a courtroom thick with tension and cameras capturing every flinch, everything changed in a single, shattering moment. Chantel, the daughter caught in the heart of this spiraling celebrity scandal, dropped to the floor, trembling. The reason? A revelation no one saw coming. A marriage contract, but not between her mother Jackie and father Doug. No, this was between Jackie Christie and none other than Chris Webber, Doug's former best friend. The discovery was buried where no one had thought to look, deep inside Jackie's private storage unit, tucked behind dusty documents, old receipts, and locked boxes. It was an old leather folder, marked simply, almost innocently. But when Chantel opened it, the truth hit like a thunderclap. The signatures were real. The notary stamps official. The dates damning. Jackie and Chris had been legally married months before she ever walked down the aisle with Doug. This wasn't a forgotten fling. It was a premeditated deception. Chantel's vision blurred as her world unraveled, her knees buckled, and she collapsed right there on the cold concrete floor. It felt like fiction, some kind of twisted plot, but it was real. Inside the folder was a prenup agreement, wedding officiant signature, even state documentation from Nevada. It was all legit. The betrayal wasn't impulsive. It was calculated. Chantel had been chasing the truth ever since the courtroom chaos weeks earlier. The DNA drama had rattled the family, but something deeper gnawed at her. Late-night whispers. Files Jackie wouldn't explain. So, with help from a friend and a burner phone, she followed her mother's secretive trail to a storage unit Jackie had never mentioned. That's when she found it. But the contract was only the beginning. Taped to the back of the folder was another envelope, labeled Plan B. Inside were receipts for private investigator services, airline records for Chris Webber, and a log of burner phone calls. Some of the numbers were traced back to court clerks, divorce lawyers, even a judge. It was all there, like puzzle pieces, falling into place. Jackie wasn't just covering her tracks, she was running a parallel life. When Chantel woke up from the shock, tears streamed down her face. The heartbreak wasn't just for her father, it was for herself. Everything she believed about her mother had been burned to the ground. That night, still raw and reeling, she sent screenshots of the marriage documents to Doug. He was holed up in a hotel room, drained after another day in court. When he opened the message, he froze. No words. No reply. Just silence. The truth had landed like a grenade. Doug wasted no time. He forwarded the documents to his legal team. The potential fallout was catastrophic. If Jackie had never legally divorced Chris Webber, or, worse, never told anyone the marriage to Doug could be considered invalid, that meant years of court decisions, custody rulings, asset divisions, all built on a lie. By the next morning, the media was on fire. The contract had leaked. Bloggers dissected every clause. Paparazzi camped outside Jackie's home. The internet exploded with theories. And then came the video evidence. Grainy, but unmistakable. Surveillance footage surfaced showing Jackie and Chris walking into a Las Vegas courthouse hand in hand on the very date listed in the contract. Jackie wore a white coat. Chris wore black. It was them. Doug stayed silent until he finally broke with one haunting post. Now they'll finally see the truth. But Chantel wasn't done. She showed up to court days later, contract in hand, and walked straight to the judge's bench during Jackie's cross-examination. No more secrets. No more questions. Just the cold, brutal truth. This wasn't just betrayal. It was exposure, carefully planned, finally unraveled. The moment the judge called for a short recess, the tone of the courtroom shifted like a gust of wind slamming shut an open door. When the session resumed, nothing was the same. Jackie's attorney looked shaken. Chris Webber was nowhere in sight, and Jackie, usually quick to speak or spin, was visibly unraveled. Cameras caught her dabbing at her face, her hands quivering. She leaned toward her lawyer and whispered something, to which he responded with a tight, worried nod. Then, without warning, Jackie asked for a private, closed-door hearing. Instantly, rumors surged through the courtroom corridors. What was she hiding now? Was the marriage contract just the first layer in a much deeper deception? Meanwhile, out in the hallway, Chantel sat on a wooden bench, clutching her phone with pale knuckles. Her friends surrounded her, trying to soothe her, but she barely registered them. The weight of everything she'd uncovered crushed her spirit. Reporters swarmed, microphones and cameras in hand, but she kept her gaze low. She wasn't there for headlines. She wanted answers, real ones. All of them. But the most chilling rumor whispered around the courthouse wasn't about the marriage. It was about a voice recording, one that allegedly captured Jackie, in her own words, admitting to the entire scheme. If that audio made it into the light, Jackie's entire world would collapse in a blink. Inside the private hearing room, Jackie sat stiffly at a long table flanked by her legal team. Her usual poise had dissolved into panic. Her jaw was clenched, so tightly it looked like it hurt, and her fingers tapped anxiously against the wood. Her attorney slid the printed contract across the table. She tried to fight it, claiming it was a fake, that her signature had been forged. But the courthouse surveillance footage from Las Vegas, the notary stamp, and the state seal told a different story. There was no spinning this. The evidence was airtight. Back outside, Chantel sat in a fog. Her heart wasn't filled with triumph, it was hollow. She had cracked open a truth so devastating. It felt like everything she once called family was a carefully built illusion. Jackie hadn't just made a mistake. She'd constructed an entire second life, and now it was all unraveling. When court resumed, the judge wasted no time. He announced that, based on the new evidence, an investigation would begin immediately to determine whether Jackie's marriage to Doug was ever legally binding. If it turned out the marriage wasn't legitimate, every custody ruling, financial settlement, and legal agreement made under that union could be reversed. But that wasn't even the worst part. One of Doug's lawyers stood up, holding a stack of documents freshly submitted by Chantel. He made a claim that silenced the courtroom. "Your Honor," he said, "we believe Ms. Christie not only entered a fraudulent marriage, but may have used this false identity to siphon funds from both Mr. Christie and Mr. Weber. This may constitute criminal fraud." A collective gasp rippled through the room. This wasn't just personal betrayal anymore, it could lead to felony charges. That evening, social media caught fire. Hashtags like #JackieExposed and #MarriageGate shot to the top of trending lists. A popular TikTok creator posted a viral timeline breakdown, pointing out every inconsistency and laying out how Jackie might have executed the whole scheme. According to the theory, Jackie secretly married Chris in Las Vegas, never filed for divorce, and years later entered a public marriage with Doug under false pretenses. If true, that meant Jackie was never legally Doug's wife to begin with, making every courtroom claim she'd ever made not just dishonest but potentially And just when it seemed like things couldn't spiral further, Chantel received an anonymous email. The subject line stopped her heart cold. "She's been lying to everyone." Attached was a single audio file. With trembling hands, Chantel hit play. It was Jackie, her voice barely above a whisper, cracking through quiet sobs. "Chris was never supposed to come back. Doug was never supposed to find out. I didn't mean to hurt her. I didn't mean for Chantel to get caught in this." Chantel sat frozen. Jackie had known. She had understood the damage, the fallout, the pain. And still, she had pressed forward. The recording was dated 3 months earlier. It sounded like it had been made during a therapy session or in one of Jackie's emotional tailspins. Either way, it was damning. It was proof. Chantel didn't hesitate. She forwarded the file to Doug's legal team. Doug arrived at the courthouse that morning not as a broken man, but as someone who had finally found purpose in the wreckage. This wasn't just about infidelity or false promises anymore. This was about truth, raw, unfiltered, and long overdue. The courtroom was tense as the judge approved the playing of the audio file. As Jackie's voice crackled through the speakers, the room fell completely silent. Her words trembled, yet they carried weight. "I didn't know what else to do. Doug was safe. Chris was dangerous. But I needed them both, for different reasons." And then came the final blow. "If they ever find out the truth about Chantel, it's over." A collective gasp surged through the gallery. Jackie covered her face with shaking hands as her own voice faded into silence. Doug rose to his feet, stunned. "What truth?" he said out loud, though Jackie refused to answer. That's when his attorney stepped forward, holding a manila folder. Inside were medical records, old hospital forms, and DNA test results, not the ones previously presented in court, but ones from a discreet private clinic, sealed and buried away. And then the name, not Doug, not Chris, but someone else entirely, a third man, a name long forgotten, a former college teammate of Jackie's. It was like the floor fell out from under everyone. Reporters raced out of the courtroom, phones in hand, pushing out updates by the second. The entire hearing had mutated into a full-blown media wildfire, with Jackie now caught in a storm of 3 potential paternity claims and none of them pointing to the man Chantel had grown up calling Dad. But it didn't end there. In a moment that nobody saw coming, Chantal stood and walked to the witness stand. Her expression was unreadably equal parts anger, exhaustion, and clarity. She stared at her mother, her voice unwavering. "You told me Doug was my father. You said Chris destroyed our family. That I had to protect our secrets or we'd lose everything. But I saw the contract. I heard your voice. I won't lie for you anymore." The judge leaned forward and asked her a single pivotal question. "Do you wish to pursue independent guardianship?" Without hesitation, Chantel nodded. "I don't want to live under her roof. I want to know who I really am. I want her lies to stop." Doug's face crumpled as tears welled in his eyes. Even after everything, he hadn't expected her to be this strong. Jackie didn't move. She sat frozen, her grip on the courtroom and her own story completely shattered. The judge immediately called for an emergency session to reassess guardianship, legal custody, and the validity of all previous rulings, now thrown into question by this mountain of deception. A forensic team was summoned to audit every document, every audio file, every DNA record that had been entered into evidence over the years. As the courtroom cleared, the war was far from over. Outside, swarms of paparazzi and protesters pressed against the courthouse gates. Jackie was ushered into a dark SUV, her face hidden behind tinted windows. Meanwhile, Doug stood beside Chantel on the courthouse steps, their embrace a symbol not of victory but of solidarity. For the first time in years, they were standing together, unafraid. And somewhere, just out of view, a new player was watching. The man listed on that newly surfaced DNA test. His name had only been whispered yesterday. But now, he was here. His presence would rewrite everything. Before sunrise, a black SUV glided to a stop at the courthouse. No security, no entourage. The door opened, and out stepped Marcus Bellamy, a name that had been locked away in Jackie's past. Her former college teammate, the man whose name appeared on a test that had upended the lives of everyone involved. He walked in alone, head lowered, sunglasses shielding his face. He wasn't there for the cameras. He wasn't looking to make noise. But his arrival meant one thing: the final chapter hadn't been written yet. And if Marcus Bellamy took the stand, everything could shift again. He walked into that courtroom not to make noise, but to settle a storm. Marcus Bellamy wasn't there for drama. He came to confirm what he already knew in his bones, or, if not, to finally silence the chaos. The room held its collective breath as he entered, tension so thick it clung to the walls. Doug Christie sat motionless beside his legal team, his eyes fixed on the door, like he'd been waiting for this moment his entire life. Chantal, still reeling from days of emotional whiplash, looked like sleep hadn't touched her in weeks. And Jackie, once the master of her own myth, now looked like a faded version of herself. Mascara barely masking the fatigue written all over her face. When her eyes met Marcus, they widened in shock. She hadn't expected him. Not yet. Not like this. The judge brought the court to order and Marcus was sworn in. A court-ordered DNA match form was handed to him. He didn't even flinch. Instead, he leaned into the mic and spoke with calm certainty. "If she's my daughter, I deserve to know. If she's not, let's put this circus to bed." But the way he said it, the steadiness in his voice, everyone could feel it. He already knew. That evening, the court rushed an emergency DNA comparison using Chantel's original sample and Marcus' fresh swab. The results were promised within 48 hours. 2 days later, reporters swarmed the courthouse like it was the trial of the decade. Inside, the judge returned with a sealed envelope. He opened it slowly, scanned the paper inside, and paused just long enough to stretch hearts to their breaking point. Then he spoke. "This court acknowledges that the DNA test confirms Mr. Marcus Bellamy is the biological father of Chantel Christie." The silence shattered. Doug's mouth fell open. Chris Webber stood completely still. Jackie crumbled, her head in her hands. And Chantel, she didn't flinch. She just stared forward, her face unreadable. This wasn't a headline. This was her identity being rewritten in real time. The judge continued, stating that this revelation rendered previous paternity-based rulings invalid. All legal and custodial decisions connected to the false claims would be suspended pending reassessment. Jackie's parental rights were immediately frozen. Then came the bombshell. She might face criminal charges for her actions. Jackie was escorted out of the courtroom as the crowd buzzed around her, the foundation of her carefully controlled narrative now in complete collapse. That night, a second leak ignited the internet, a hidden video, clearly never meant for public eyes. Jackie sat across from a therapist, puffy-eyed and breaking down. She confessed everything. "I lied to protect myself. I didn't even know who Chantel's father was. Doug thought she was his. Chris wanted her to be his. But Marcus. Marcus was the one I tried to erase." Then she said the one sentence that stopped millions of viewers cold. "I married Chris for power. I married Doug for stability. But Marcus. He was the mistake I tried to forget." Within hours, the clip had racked up over 25 million views. Jackie Christie's name was scorched. Her shows were dropped, her sponsors vanished, and her career was, without question, over. But this story wasn't finished. Doug's legal team filed a lawsuit seeking emotional damages, claiming Jackie's lies had cost him more than just peace of mind endorsement losses. Years of legal manipulation and irreparable harm to his relationship with Chantel. Chris Webber released a public statement of his own, admitting he too had been deceived and was cutting all ties with Jackie. He also made a plea. "If she let me, I want to be in Chantel's life. I should have been there. I want to help her heal." Chantel, however, wasn't ready for the noise. She met privately with Marcus in a small sealed room. No reporters, no cameras, no scripts. Just a daughter face-to-face with the stranger who had always been her father. Those who caught a glimpse said they embraced. Others said Chantel wept in a way she hadn't let herself before. The next morning, she posted a single photo on Instagram. No caption, just her hand in Marcus's. The hashtag underneath said it all. Hashtag finally found the truth. The world rallied behind her. Celebrities, influencers, even reality stars, who once praised Jackie turned their support to Chantel, declaring her strength unmatched and her story unforgettable. As Jackie remained under house arrest, her legal team claimed she was under psychiatric evaluation and wouldn't be making any appearances, but the damage was irreversible. Her empire of manipulation had collapsed under the weight of its own secrets. And just when the headlines began to cool, TMZ dropped a final twist. Court-sealed documents revealed Jackie had once attempted to bribe a lab technician to destroy Marcus's original DNA results. She hadn't just lied, she had tried to erase the truth. The man stepped forward just days after the scandal went viral, his face obscured by nerves but his words crystal clear. He claimed Jackie Christie had offered him $25,000 in cold cash to make the DNA results vanish. His testimony didn't just ignite more headlines, it cracked open the door to federal charges. And when the final court session convened weeks later, the gavel fell like thunder. The judge's words were swift and heavy. Jackie Christie is hereby stripped of all legal rights to Chantel. Marcus Bellamy is granted supervised visitation, pending further evaluation. Doug Christie is entitled to damages, with a civil case to follow. As the last of the crowd filed out, a quiet settled over the courtroom, like the closing of a heavy book. The secrets were out. The lies were scorched by daylight, and the empire Jackie had built on performance and illusion lay in ruins. Outside, beneath the flashes of dying cameras, Doug stood beside Chantel and wrapped his arm around her. He didn't need a paternity test to prove what he already knew. Family isn't about DNA, he told reporters. It's about loyalty, love, and truth. And that's something Jackie forgot a long time ago. Together, they walked away from the courthouse, father and daughter, scarred but still standing. It felt final. It felt over. But it wasn't, because just as the dust began to settle, a final envelope landed on the courthouse steps. No return address. No explanation. Inside, a single tape labeled in red ink, "The Real Beginning." It wasn't over. Not by a long shot. If you've followed this story all the way through, you already know it wasn't just a scandal, it was a slow unraveling of everything we thought we understood about Jackie, Doug, and Chantel. But here's the truth no one's ready to face. That tape might contain the most damning chapter yet. What if Jackie's marriage to Chris Webber wasn't just another scandal for the blogs, but a carefully orchestrated smokescreen, designed to hide a web of manipulation, forgery, and generational deception? What if everything, the fake documents, the buried birth records, the custody war, the betrayal of Doug Christie, was just the surface of something far more disturbing? Because insiders are now suggesting this wasn't just personal. It was strategic, calculated, weaponized, and the new tape. It's not just a confession. It might be the blueprint to unraveling everything Jackie built layer by layer. Sources close to the investigation have hinted that this final tape, unearthed from a locked storage unit in Pasadena, contains more than just Jackie speaking into a camera. It contains names, bank accounts, payoffs. It allegedly outlines a timeline of manipulation that stretches back nearly 2 decades long before Chantal was even born. On it, Jackie allegedly references the Circle, a term that investigators believe could point to a closed network of individuals across entertainment, law, and medicine who collaborated to falsify records, bury inconvenient truths, and even reroute entire family trees. This isn't just reality TV mess, this is federal crime-level deception. One theory being floated by insiders is that Jackie orchestrated a double life, a second family, possibly hidden under a different name, potentially in a different state, who may have been used as cover or leverage for financial gains. There's speculation that one child whose name has not yet been released was swapped into a school system under Chantel's identity for several years, giving rise to the suspicion of systemic identity fraud and educational funding scams. The ripple effect, if proven, it could trigger a domino of lawsuits, criminal indictments, and even RICO investigations. And Chris Webber, the man who recently broke his silence with a calculated, eerily calm statement, "I just found out I'm a father, and I plan to show up with honesty, respect, and full transparency," might not be the only high-profile figure wrapped up in this. There are whispers of another NBA star, allegedly once romantically involved with Jackie during a separation from Doug, who may have unknowingly fathered a child she never claimed publicly. That child, now a teenager, has never appeared in public with Jackie but may soon be forced to testify if this case escalates to federal court. Even more disturbing, early glimpses into the tape reveal coded language phrases that legal experts and forensic linguists are analyzing for double meanings and hidden implications. The term "clean," the photo album, appears repeatedly, which some believe refers to deleting digital histories, including medical documents, court transcripts, and social services records. If Jackie had help scrubbing and rewriting official documents, then the rabbit hole isn't just DPTS institutional. This is no longer just about who Chantel's real father is. This is about what it cost to keep that truth hidden. It's about an empire built not on influence but on interference. About how fame can cover for fraud, how television can distract from tragedy, and how silence can be bought with enough zeros at the bottom of a check. And as federal agents begin combing through the contents of the tape frame by frame, viewers should brace themselves, because when this next chapter drops, it won't be on VH1 or Bravo. It'll be in court filings, sealed indictments, and breaking news trends. Jackie's legacy isn't just crumbling, it's imploding. And this time, there's no reunion episode to fix it. So if you thought the chaos was over, you were wrong. Turn your alerts on. The real show is just beginning.